Well, today's Thursday, the 18th of August. Beautiful day. Yesterday wasn't supposed to rain, and we had a big storm come up. This morning I came over and came to the garden and went back and got the camera so you could see what I saw a few minutes ago. I did notice a few things on the ground. I noticed the bags that we get stuff up with. Sometimes we leave some on a little bench in the garden area, and it is wet. So I walked through here, and whoops, I got one tomato plant over there, one tomato laying on the ground there, one leaning down there, and the one that was leaning is still upright. My cucumber vine is over for the third time this year. Some of the squash have been beat down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to hurt them. I can get these back into the ground using steel posts, and I use the waistbands off the hose that we cut up to tie the tomato stake. I'll drive the stake in as much as I can without breaking the stem, but I will first drive a steel post in the ground next to it, and then my bride and I will lift it up and tie it on with the waistbands. And those little trays right there were over here left for my coal plants, and this tray is full of water, and these are mostly empty trays with a few little plants left over. And the pepper plants got knocked down pretty good because I hadn't tied them up again higher, which I'll have to do once it dries off a little bit. And the okra's okay. The beans seem to be okay. And they're coal plants. I won't have to worry about watering them for a couple days. Just one more little trials and tribulations of gardening. But we could sure stand the rain, so it was worth it. Well, the saver plant that you had staked out, the stem is not broken because, see, we tied it off maybe a foot above the ground, and so that part flexed. And then I take a waistband and stretch it and tie a knot in it so that when I tie this around the stake, I can cut it and use the other half for another one. And then it really helps to have two people, but you can lift that up yourself to here, hold it with your body and tie it off. But I have a bride to help me. Well, I used to drive all these stakes in with a ladder and a sledgehammer, and I broke down this year and bought one of these drivers. You just slide it over the post, hold the handles, and drive it down. It's a big plug of steel at the top for weight. If you're ever having to drain a plant that got way too wet, just angle it, and in less than a day, if the sun's out, they're drier than when they started. Well, we got these three up. There was two laying on the ground and four leaning. We drove a post away from it. See, I plant all that root ball goes right down into there, so most of the roots are over there, so you'd never want to put a stake in there because you could sever it. You could break right through the main stem that we buried. Put it on this side, drive it down, pull it up here, tie it off with a waistband. Same thing here, tie it off with a waistband. And we don't drive it in with a sledgehammer, the ground's soft, but we drive it in a little bit so the bottom is rigid, and that way when you tie this off, it can't fall over because it's in the ground a ways. And here's the other one. It was laying on the ground. That one's leaning a little bit, but I think we can live with it. This one was laying over on that one, and see, we've got a stake on it. And this one down here was leaning over really bad, and we staked it. My bride's tying up tomatoes because sometimes we just overlap these in with others, but when you get a storm, see it, the little velcro-ness of a tomato plant, well, the wind and all will blow them down, so now we've got to come in and tie them up. And here's one that needed to be done. Let me see if I can find this Better Boy that's loaded. Here's the one. My bride has also found 2 tomato hornworms this morning, a tiny one and a big fat one, and we had no wasp eggs on any of them that we found, which I think is maybe 4. But we had to right this pole and look at the tomato cluster there. If we start right there, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, just right there. Plus we got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 down here at the bottom, and we've got them setting at the top. So you wouldn't want to lose that plant because it fell on the ground. For the last week or 10 days, it's been above 95 every day. We hit 99 twice. And when it gets that hot, stuff stops setting. And you will find that your tomatoes, everything will quit setting fruit. We've had cucumbers coming over our ears, but now with the heat, they're not setting as many, so now it'll equalize out and not have so many. And the beans should be setting a ton of pods, but it's too hot, and they're just not setting. There are a few in here, but once it cools off with all these roots and all this foliage and all these stems, we will have a bunch of them. Next thing is to tie up these pepper plants, which was my fault for not secondary tying them. I just tied them up at the bottom. And there's a titmouse. They like it, and I've got my hornworm in there, and as soon as I see a cardinal show up over here, he will be gone. They do love them. Black sunflower seeds bring cardinals into your garden. If you're growing tomatoes, they will get your hornworms. Here's our volunteer cuke, and we have done this before numerous times, and the most we ever got was 22 off of a volunteer that we put in a wire cage, and that will make, we picked 20. That's 21. See, there's a bunch of little ones in there. And that's one, and that's one, so we're at 22 if we just pick the ones on each side. Plus in about 3 days, that's going to be pickable. So if it doesn't die, we've at least tied it. Oops, that's 23 right there. So we have broken our record. We just haven't harvested all 3 of these last ones. Here's one on the end. It doesn't get as much sun as the others, but in the afternoon it does get a little sun. But there's a lot of tomatoes. We still got 3 more months. Well, it's still Thursday, August 18th. I've tied up all these peppers, and there are about 4 or 5 really nice green peppers on those large ones. We have picked all the ripe fruit that might split because of all the rain last night. We've tied up all the poles. Everything's more vertical.